Me siento enojada, frustrada.
I am mad, frustrated.
Pero aquí en WoW regreso y me respetan.
But here in WoW, I come back and I get a respect.
Y ahora, quien se enfrente, cualquier oponente, cualquier rival, lo voy a destruir. Voy a terminar con quien sea.
And now, whoever is in front of me, any rival, I'm gonna destroy them.
Y no voy a descansar hasta ser la primera mexicana campeona de WoW.
And I'm not gonna rest until I become the first Mexican as a WoW champion.
Frog splash! 1, 2, 3! Tormenta!
Here is your winner, Princess Aussie!
You know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
And it is for the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship!
The World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion of the world!
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. This is your host, Mr. Green, and we are rolling into episode 40 of Wow, Women of Wrestling. This is another review, and the episode title is called Welcomings and Whoopings. So they've got quite the bit of stuff that was going on here, and this particular episode was the assumably the blow-off of I can't even call it a feud. Is it I guess, for lack of a better term, we're going to call it a feud. The Mother Truckers against Samantha Smart and her group. But before we go into that, it is official now that WoW has been approved for a second season. Congratulations to them. I will say, and I've said this a couple of times before, that they should not be taking hiatuses. It gives them too much time and problems to, for things to go wrong. And for whatever reason, I don't know who got in whose ear. I don't know who made a suggestion. I don't know whether it was in-house or out-of-house, but somebody there decided, you know what, let's just keep this thing going. I've always said that was the appeal of wrestling to television networks, is that it provides year-round content. And generally speaking, wrestling has a very loyal fan base. So you're talking year-round content with a generally set number of people that will watch this show that you can count on week in and week out. WoW is pretty much that now. I did get into the ratings at one point on one of the earlier episodes. The average being around a 0.05 or 0.04, which essentially translates to about 250,000 people across the country. Now, the question that I had at that time was, how do we qualify that as being good or bad? We don't know what the budget for WoW is. They're not a publicly traded company. They're not obligated to give their opinions, or I shouldn't say their reports, not opinions. They're not obligated to give their reports or tell anybody what they earn and all that. I mean, and let's face it, their production and what they earn off of ad revenue is probably going to dictate whether those numbers are good or bad for them. I would assume that it is good because they have been approved, that the email has already gone out, and they are going into a second season. And as such, the tickets are on sale. So I will do my little piece here, and they'll say that their tickets are now available as of, I'm recording this now, it was yesterday. They started the same day that they sent the email. It started Friday, June 23rd. So I'm actually not even sending, talk about this late. She just sent the email yesterday on the 23rd, and the tickets are going open on the 23rd. Now, that's not WOW necessarily. That's Smith House Strategy. They're their publicists. They send this stuff out. So that you can applaud a while. You can say that they've had their ups and they've had their downs, but they have gone and rolled into a second season. Congratulations to them. They have a commercial that was already put up on their YouTube channel. You can go and check that out as well. They are going to be returning to the Belasco Theater in Los Angeles, California. And as I just stated, the tickets are now on sale. And I have to say, as a production guy or an editor, whoever put this together, I like the commercial. It made them look like stars. And I don't mean, hey, we're Wild Girl stars. I mean, it made them look like stars. Not just stars within their show. It felt bigger, at least to me. So, I do want to give credit where it's due in that regard. And they went down the line. They didn't just pick out something out. I imagine they don't really have one person that they can lean on like that. There isn't a Hulk Hogan. There isn't a Steve Austin. There isn't a John Cena. There isn't a Roman Reigns. Somebody that they can sell the tickets around. So they sold it around everybody. And, that works. That happens. Wrestling companies do that. ECW did that a lot. They didn't want necessarily a singular star, even though they had a few that they could sell around. But they wanted the company, which is why you got the whole ECW chant rather than chanting for one single person all the time. Even though they did it, I'm just making the point that they made the company more important than any individual in it. And that seems to be where WOW is kind of leaning towards. Feel like it leans towards WOW is the product that you are kind of supporting, and the persons that are in the WOW, are stars in their own regard, but they kind of, I don't want to say secondary to the promotion because that doesn't sound right, but the promotion comes first. I'll put it at the promotion in and of itself is the entity that you buy the tickets for. In most cases. Now, I'm sure somebody out there will say, I bought it to see Kandi Krush. Okay, fine. You may be an exception, but you get where I'm going with that. One of the things that they have advertised on here is that the Beast will be returning after several weeks of, being on the mend with her ankle. She is now returning officially. So I would imagine that somewhere along the line, within the course of the next couple of months, we're going to see the Beast pop back in and challenge or go after the championship. I would imagine that is probably going to be the route that is taken. One of the things that I find surprising, though, in the ad that I saw, is not only is the Beast returning, but Santana Garrett is returning. The same Santana Garrett that was a former WOW champion. She had been there before. But more importantly than that is and I'm not the only person that said this. There's an Americana there. And you're pretty much bringing the original article when you have Santana Garrett come in. I mean, not only do they bear a very strikingly similar look, wear strikingly similar outfits, but Americana does the same finish that Santana Garrett does. Springboard into a standing moonsault. I'm curious to see what they're going to do with that. I mean, because in a normal wrestling environment, you don't really want people who are similar to each other. You tend to try to get an individual look or team, per person in the roster. That's normally what we aim for when you're asking or not asking, where you're suggesting people to join the roster, or hey, you should get this person, you should look at this guy, you should look at this girl. You're looking for a uniqueness and something that is not there. With Americana, I should say with Santana Garrett, right now you pretty much have that. You have somebody that's already there, that roughly the same height, roughly the same look, roughly the same finish. What? So so unless they're gonna do some drastic overhauls to Americana, I'm not really sure why they're doing that, other than hey, we can get Santana Garrett back. Why have the copy when we can have the real deal? It's like, we don't need Demolition anymore. We got the Road Warriors. I don't know. But anyway, that's what's going on. So if you are in the LA area, or you plan on going to Los Angeles and you want to see a WoW taping live, go check them out. The tickets are now on sale. You know what? Maybe one of these days, if I found out the actual taping date, I might make a journey out west and see them live, at least once before they disappear or actually go on tour. So, because it'll be one or the other. Either the show's going to continue or not. So I will maybe look into that at some point. Another thing that I will make a quick suggestion for those of you out there. I don't know if you enjoy one Eva Marie, but Natalie Eva Marie is on YouTube, and she has a video that caught my eye a little earlier. It was reacting to my worst total diva moments, and on the thumbnail, it has in bright yellow lettering, "You don't know how to wrestle," and she's looking at it. Now, of course, that's clickbait, because I'm sure she's heard 1,000 times that she doesn't know how to wrestle. I know she probably heard it on that show, and she put it in. It's her channel. It's not like somebody else did it or somebody else talking about it. So I'm sure she has that on there to get some people to look, and it worked. There's 25,000 views already. So I bring that up to say, just as a side note, it might be something that you want to check out. Now, bear in mind, outside of the Total Divas thing that she's watching, there's really not a lot of wrestling content in there. It's not like you're looking at an old Eva Marie match or watching her go over an old Eva Marie match, how terrible that might be. but she's not doing that. She's going over moments in Total Divas where she's talking about how she got in and how she felt at the time and so on and so forth. Now, and I only share that because I know some people are actually into her. As surprised as I may be, some people were actually into her. Now, I don't want to pile on Eva Marie because she's an example. Well, first, I'm going to say, no, she was not a good wrestler. Let's just go ahead and nip that in the bud. She was not a good wrestler by any stretch of the imagination. But that said, I also don't think that was her fault. She probably got, because what is she, in her 30s now? So she had to have been hired by that company right out of in her 20s. You're a 20-something-year-old and you're offered TV, getting paid good money with the opportunity to jump right into six figures. Regardless of how trained you are, there's probably a good chance that you'll take that bet, that you'll at least try it, especially when the company itself is pretty much built around the idea of, okay, let's hire them and we can train them later. And that's what she was. She was a victim of that. She was, let's hire her and let's train her later. She was an attractive, and I'm not going to say was in past tense, she's an attractive young lady. but they stuck her in an environment that she was not prepared to deal with. She wasn't trained. And even though they had a training facility, and it didn't matter what point in time that she got there, even if they didn't have the full-blown facility up, they had agreements with OVW at one point. They probably were done with that by then. They had agreements with Deep South. I'm sure they was probably done with that by then. But they certainly had agreement with FCW before NXT came around. She had the opportunity, if the WWE would have allowed it, to at least try and train to do it. And they knew full well that she wasn't ready to be on anybody's main roster. There's probably at least 15, 20 other people that were in developmental at the time that she was there that she leapfrogged because they liked her look. And it was as simple as that. They liked her look. And they just stuck her on television. This, if you want to see that, it is available now. And like I said, it's on her channel, Natalie Eva Marie. It was one of the suggested things. And I just thought it was an interesting video to see how she perceives her time in Total Divas. So I just wanted to pass that along. Now, before I leave it, I just want to say Total Divas was probably one of the best things that could have happened to WWE, but overall maybe one of the worst things that happened for the women in the long haul. I'm sure short term it was probably very good. I mean, the pro of it is that it is the WWE. They want to be and are a multimedia conglomerate. I know they don't like to look at themselves just as a wrestling company. They are a wrestling company. They just happen to be a multimedia conglomerate along with it. And having a show like Total Divas on an entirely different network than where they ran Raw and SmackDown and whatnot gave them exactly what they wanted. It gave them the opportunity to spread their brand. And you know they're all about spreading their brand. That's why we had these stupid-looking championship belts that we get. We got to have the WWE logo plastered all over it because you're a walking billboard. They're not interested in legitimacy anymore. That era for them is long gone. They want people to have that WWE logo in their face. It is why they send those championship belts as a congratulations to like the winning Super Bowl team or the winning baseball team or whoever. Because the first thing they do is that when they get it, it's on TV. They hold it up high. They had that big giant WWE logo, or it's in print, and they put a WWE logo in front of people's faces. Hell, the owner of WOW has a replica WWE logo belt that was presented to her. Okay? Jeannie Buss has a WWE logo championship belt that was presented to her. And what do you find on her Instagram? You do not see a WOW championship belt. And she was presented with that on that TV. She has the WWE championship belt on the Instagram. Showed up. Thank you, Stephanie McMahon. At the time that I looked, there was no sign of that WOW championship belt. So I'm sure she's very proud of it. But anyway, yeah, that's probably the best and worst thing that happened. It was a great marketing ploy, but it also fed into the whole Divas thing. Because that show was built on the same thing that almost every reality show is built on. It's built off of confrontation and problems. And it just, Divas was I don't want to say catchphrase. Divas was a title that they used to show their women. But in this case, it became reality. They became divas on television, and I'm sure that did not do them any favors. The women that are wrestling there now wrestle to fight from underneath that shadow. The shadow of the women aren't important on this show. The shadow of as long as they look good, we can train them later. The shadow of sticking people on television in wrestling matches who barely know how to do it because what the hell is just a women's match. It's a throwaway. We don't care. They're still fighting to get from underneath that. It is the same thing that I say or that I present when I talk about WoW, and I'm like, some of these people do not need to be on TV. I'm sorry, but they don't. Front and center for that is Americana. She does not need to be on their television. I'm sure that they all feel differently, but maybe since they have Santana Garrett coming back to the original article, they can, I'm not saying fire Americana, but maybe they can ship her off. Most people probably wouldn't even notice the difference, and get her a little bit more seasoning and then bring her back. Anyhow, so yeah, that was just a little side note there that I wanted to pass off to those of you who are interested. So let us get into the episode, shall we? This is, again, the 40th episode of this incarnation, Welcomings and Whoopings. Wait a minute. And I forgot there was one other thing that I need to say, because you can say a lot of things about the WWE. You can say that they are, an evil empire and they don't know what they're doing anymore, or this, that, and the other. There's a lot of things that people can say about the WWE, both good and bad. But one thing that you cannot say about them is that they do not know how to promote. I was about to skip over that point when I was talking about Total. That was part of the whole reason that Total Divas show existed. You cannot say that they do not know how to promote. They are an industry leader, essentially for a reason. Now, whether I like them or not is irrelevant. I got to call a spade a spade. They are the industry leaders in wrestling. I mean, as far as just top to bottom. They control probably about 94%, 95% of the market. And that's an undisputed fact at this point. But if they do anything, you know that they're doing it. They make it very clear to you. Our premium live event will be on this, that, and the other day. We have this other show. Watch us on Fox Fridays. Watch us on Monday nights. Watch NXT. We got this other. Be sure to look at, the only shows that they probably give less time to are those shows like NXT Level Up and Main Event, crap like that. Why do I mention that for, at this point? Why was that so important? How many of you are aware or took the time to watch or forgot that WoW has a show on Pluto TV called My Road to WoW? Anybody? Because they don't mention it on television. In fact, I mean, if you were just gauging off of TV, you probably wouldn't know anything about it at all. How many of you know that you can watch WoW on Pluto TV? Both classic, as what they label it as, and new episodes. They're about to episode 34 on Pluto TV on their on-demand service. But how many of you were aware of that? How many of you are aware of their documentary? I'm just going to say the history of women's wrestling because I can't remember the actual title right now. But it's an entirely separate thing. How many of you were aware that that's on there? Anybody? That's something that they probably should work on. They don't have a lot of promotion behind other projects that they do. They just kind of fall to the wayside. And if you didn't hear it from somebody like me or another, podcast colleague, or you're not on the websites and things like that, you probably would not know it at all. It is not their strong suit when they leave trying to, outside of promoting the show. That they do all the time. I see the commercials run for it all the time. Hell, I put the commercials on playlists myself. But outside of that, no, I wouldn't know anything about it. Speaking of their commercials, wow, it's time to update your commercial. It's pretty much out of date at this point. You take a couple of clips and swap it out and send it out and feed that thing out to the stations like you did the last one and be done. All right, so now we can go into the actual show. Wow. The formula is here. Let's just go ahead and say the formula is already there. We know what this is. It's an hour of a show. It's going to have 4 matches, generally speaking. If they have a match that's anywhere less than what they normally allot, then it's going to be loaded up with video footage to kind of fill the quarter hour. That's pretty much what we should expect from WoW at this point. Every quarter of the hour, you're going to get a match. By the time you get to 15 minutes into it, that match should be coming into its finish. That is just the way it works. I was hoping that they would every once in a while switch it up, and here and there they have. I mean, you know, I could probably count on my hands how many times it's really changed out. But every once in a while, I was like, you know, I would really wish this match would be a little bit more competitive, or they gave them more time. But, you know, they have their formula. And they probably like it 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes just because it forces the girls to have to squeeze in a bunch of action and eliminate downtime. That's probably the reason. That is my guess. I'm not going to say that is solidly the answer, but it's another one of those this I do not know, or this I cannot prove. But if I were a betting man, I would bet that that's probably the large portion of the reason why. We want to make sure that we have X amount of matches per show, in this case 4, and we'll just trim the match down because the shorter the match, the more action. You know, that's probably some of the logic behind that. So there's the show. It starts off with its recap of the show previously, and, you know, basically the main event of the last episode. And then they go into the preview of this show. The first match is Siren the Voodoo Doll and Holiday taking on the Tonga Twins. Tonga Twins, who are the de facto lead babyface team in the company. No problems here. I mean, you know, it was fine. It was a little anticlimactic though, and that was largely based on how the video was cut. So if you go and watch it, and the match is short. I mean, and I just finished talking about how sometimes the matches are short, largely to try to, you know, maybe try to squeeze more action in there. But, you know, every once in a while, I really, really, really think that these matches need time to breathe. And this probably is one of them, and probably one of the better examples of this match needed time to breathe. It is super short. Like, by the time you get to what is it? The clip for this is like 6 minutes and some change, like 6:45. 2.5 minutes of that are intros. So you're talking about maybe a 3.5, 4 minute match, you know, at best. And I know all 4 of these people are capable of doing far better. You know, I know they are. Holiday, Siren, the Chaos, and Kona. They all are able to, you know, do far better in this environment than what they were given. It's just the match is short, and they had to do a lot in a little bit of time. The first thing that happens here is Siren and Holiday jump the Tongas. And for whatever reason, they decide to both give them a headbutt. Which, of course, you know, you can't do that to a Tongan because all Tongans have super hard heads. That was a callback in wrestling that I'm really surprised that they did, because that leaned into whole racial profiles that used to go on in wrestling. Every Asian person has to know karate. Every black dude has to have a hard head. Every Samoan has to have a hard head and walk around barefoot. Or be a savage. It just, it's just on. It felt like a kind of an outdated trope, but they didn't play into it much, so I guess it's not that big of a deal. That, like I said, the heels here both did a headbutt, and then oh my God, they staggered back into the turnbuckles because they couldn't deal with the pain. So now we got our baby faces, the Tongas, in control, and they force Holiday out of the ring, give a double flapjack to our girl Siren. And then now the match goes in the pace of a normal match. We got some actual one-on-one competition. Now, I'm not going to go into the play-by-play of the match from top to bottom. Needless to say, here's what happens here at the end. We've got one of the Tongas in the ring. She puts Siren down for the pin. Holiday comes in and stops that and tries to cut it off. But in the midst of doing that, and there's a point where they have to pretty much tell the referee, get out of the way, because I think he was still trying to enforce the rules. I mean, so you can't blame him on that. He was trying to keep the other Tonga twin out, but I'm sure the spot called for all four people to be in the ring. So Holiday moves the referee, and she gets a super kick in the mouth for her trouble. This is where it looks like they have I don't want to say a bad edit, but a little bit of a cover-up. By the time, it cuts to a shot of the crowd. A close-up of one of the Tongas and a shot of the crowd. And then all of a sudden, it's just Siren in there with both of the twins. We can assume that Holiday just rolled out to the floor. I don't know that because we didn't see it. They put her in their finish, the Samoan drop / neck breaker combo, and then 1, 2, 3 is done. It was a fine match, but again, it felt anticlimactic because at the finish, we cut away from it to right where she's being set up for the finish, being set up for their big coup de grace, so to speak. The other thing I noticed in this match, I wrote the note to myself: is AJ Mendez here? I know she was on the show. I heard her later, but for whatever reason through this match, it's like didn't seem like she was saying or doing much of anything. So we'll skip that. That's the my train of thought for this particular match. Fine. That's the pro of it is that it seemed like it was worked well. The con is it is ridiculously slow. I mean not slow, ridiculously short, and it just seemed like they were trying to cover up something with that edit. But that's that's just me. I can't imagine why you would just cut away like that, but who knows? We get a preview segment for the remaining matches of the show. Those matches being Gigi Gianni versus Kandi Krush, not with her tag team partner, not in a team, nor is she at ringside. You get a match with Tormenta taking on Princess Aussie. And in the main event, you would have the Mother Truckers taking on the Disciplinarian and GI Jane. So the next match, Gianni and Kandi Krush. Now I like Gigi Gianni, and I've grown into Kandi Krush. Largely because she is no longer involved in that stupid feud about her damn gloves. It was just insane. And then to go through all of that and basically like, well, I don't need them anymore because the power's inside of me. And I'll get back to that a little bit later on in a minute. Gianni comes out with a slightly improved look. She's upgraded her outfit, not with the one leg thing anymore. She's got, I don't want to say proper trunks, but they're both legs are out. We'll say that. So she's showing some thigh, and she's got herself a cape. Now I don't know what is going on with. I shouldn't say cape is a robe, but I don't know what's going on with the team I will refer to them as the fashionistas. This is one of those issues that Wild needs to straighten up. Sometimes some of these pairings and teams that they have are very inconsistent. Sometimes they're there and then they'll say, oh yeah, their partner bailed out or something like that, and then they just pop back up. And then there'll be a team again. So I have no idea. I don't know whether this is the start of Gianni just being a singular star, or if it's Gianni just taking a break and, being away from the team. But I think they need some more clearly defined lines of the teams and the single stars. Gianni needs to be in one lane or the other. Either you're going to be with Amber Rodriguez or not. Either you're going to be a team or not. And they don't just apply to her. It applies to a couple of people there. Because they just, it seems to kind of morph and change and do whatever. I mean, Exile. We saw them, a week ago, and at least 2/3 of the original Exile group are no longer seeing. We don't see Malaya Hosaka, who was the ringleader / organizer and lead face of Exile. She's kind of inexplicably gone. We don't see Exodus, or we haven't seen Exodus since the sixth woman is basically now Ice Cold and Genesis. That is a issue that should be corrected. I don't know how they need to correct it, but that is an issue that they should correct. So, like I said, we saw Gianni. Kandi Krush comes out. I want to say Krush is doing better. I think that she is putting in a lot of effort. And I am so thankful that she is no longer doing the let's go, that whole thing. It just felt like such a forced catchphrase. She comes off a lot better just in her natural self. Seeing her as Sugar Shaw in her natural environment, she's a likable young lady. And, and Krush, she has improved by leaps and bounds, in my view. Especially if this is the only wrestling environment that she's been in. If this is the only wrestling environment that she's been in, then she's absolutely improved. Gigi Gianni, she's very, very good facial expressions out of her. I love her facial expressions. When that camera gets on her face, you know exactly what she's feeling. You know what she's thinking. She is very good, in my view, as relating kind of the minute things there. This match is a nice match. Not overly excited, not some high spot fest or nothing like that, but it is a good match. And Gianni plays her role well. She played the role of the heel very well. And Krush, she is a good babyface. I wouldn't say it's a sympathetic babyface in this regard, because it's not like she looked like she was in terrible danger throughout most of this. She did a good job of expressing the pain that's on her face and all that stuff like that. But it was for a match that I believe is their first singles match against each other. I don't recall whether Gianni and Kandi Krush had a match prior to now. But for a first-time match against each other, I thought they did, very well. I mean, there's only room for improvement between the two of them with this confrontation, with this match. There's a point in there where Gianni is able to turn it around, and she gets, starts building the heat on Krush. I I forgot I wrote this note. I wrote down, I'm convinced that WoW gives kids signs to the hole in the crowd. I have no idea whether they do that, but all those signs look all the same. All those signs look the same. I am totally convinced that they just hand these out. Here, kid, hold this up. When you see the TV, just make sure you hold it up high. They almost all the same size. They almost all had the same handwriting. They all no artwork, nothing. It's just like everybody left the house with the same exact idea. I'm just gonna write your name on this bright neon sign. Nobody comes. Very few people come in there like with just a plain white sign. It's all neon green, neon pink, purple. It's. I am absolutely convinced that WoW just sits in the back. It's like Dave McClellan says, hey, scribble this crap out on this sign and hand it out to kids. Anyway. All right. So anyway, there's a really good spot in the match. I need to get my composure back. Anyway, there's a spot in the match where Kandi Krush hoists Gianni up on her shoulders. We don't know what she's going for. I'm just going to say it might have been an attitude adjustment or TKO or something like that. Gianni was able to break free with a couple of elbow shots to the side of the head. Does that Randy Orton neck/backbreaker when she kind of hooks you from behind and then drops to her knees, forcing her opponent to pop their back on her back. So it was very nice. And the finish also very nice. I actually like this finish out of Kandi Krush better than her trying to get up to the second rope so she could pop that Superwoman punch. Well, they call it the Kandi Krush, whatever, the KO Crusher or something like that. So at the end, Gianni tries to get a kick in her midsection because after the backbreaker, she goes for the cover. She's unsuccessful with the cover, of course. At some point, they get back up to their feet. Gianni tries for a kick. Krush catches that and gives her a quick spin, a reverse elbow, and then she rolls into the ropes, jumps up and pops her in the face with that quick, I'll just say Superwoman punch. The KO Crusher is what they call it. So I will stick with that. KO Crusher. I have no complaint about this match. I have nothing but praise for the both of them. This is one of those things that she is getting much better. I still wish that she would take matches elsewhere. And I know WoW doesn't necessarily encourage that, but I don't think they discourage it either. I know there's several of them that do take independent bookings, but those are the ones that were on the independents to begin with. And then the ones that are on WoW, they largely like, I don't want to work anywhere but WoW. But in this case, I would really, really, really suggest or push, if Kandi Krush is there and she gets any advice from anybody, go take some other bookings. You're getting good. Keep that up. And, being able to work in different environments, being able to work in a different size ring, being able to work with different opponents, being able to speak on the mic, being able to adjust on the fly. Those are the things that the independents will probably get her, provided that she goes to some reputable ones. But yeah, I beat a dead horse with that. But I would really, really hope that she would take one of those bookings, get to an independent promotion, and maybe pick up a few tricks along the way. But a good match. If you were going to check out anything, I would say check this out. It doesn't go anywhere. Now the two matches that we just talked about, those matches are cold. There's no angle behind it. There's no angle behind the Tonga Twins taking on Siren and Holiday. There was no angle behind Kandi Krush taking on Gianni. These are just cold matches. Now, the matches are fine, but they're just cold matches. Now, the other thing that I have to say before we move out of the Gigi Gianni and Kandi Krush match is this comment that David McClain made during the match. They have begun to develop this habit of the commentary will fix all. As long as we say it in the commentary, then we can change the narrative of what has happened. Somewhere in there, McLean says, oh, yeah, and she got her gloves back. Just kind of in the middle of her coming out the ringside and talking about Kandi Krush. Yeah, she's got her gloves back. When did this happen? This happens too much that they start talking about things that either completely contradict what was seen on TV or it just never happened at all. In this case, it contradicts what happened on TV. The whole angle, and this is what I was coming back to, at least part of it. This is the first half. The whole angle with Kandi Krush chasing relentlessly after these gloves ended with her telling Angelica Dante in the ring, on the microphone, in front of a camera, you know what, I don't even care. You keep the gloves. I don't need them anymore. And then they went on this whole angle, well, not angle, but then they went to this whole narrative of she found out she didn't need the gloves. The power was inside of her all along, right? So at what point did she get these gloves back? Why was it important to even mention that when it didn't happen? I mean, look, it's their universe and they can do whatever they want. If he says that she got her gloves back, then I guess she does. But again, you know, if you're going to do that, at least entertain the audience and show us that she got it. That would have been a better finish than her going on chasing these people down, fighting these fights against these quote-unquote monsters for weeks and weeks and weeks on end, only to turn around and say, you know what, I know those are the gloves that I was fighting for, but you know what, forget it. That would have been a far better finish if she had actually gotten them. But since you didn't do that, stick to the story. Don't just change it just because it sounds convenient. These are the things that gives me a wow. As much as I can give some praise to it, these are the things that's put me on the side rail with them. And here's another one. So the next segment, this would probably be, let's see, this is segment 5. Next segment is Sophia Lopez in a video, in a vignette, I should say, with Tormenta. The first thing I said or wrote down as I watched this for a few minutes was this was a great way to reintroduce Tormenta. It was a great way to reintroduce her. It looked good. It was presented well. It did not have to be the traditional backstage interview thing. It was presented very well because I could buy that Sophia Lopez would go out of, I don't want to say out of her way, but I would buy that she would produce something like this to send a wow. I mean, you know, I'm applying logic for them at this point. But I could get the concept that she would do something like this to reintroduce Tormenta to the viewing audience. And so you got Lopez behind her desk with Tormenta standing at her side. And Tormenta's giving her story in Spanish. Whereas Lopez is standing there translating this all for her. For everyone that's watching. This was very well done. Now, the only thing that got me here that I didn't understand is they talked about her returning to Mexico and suffering one of the worst things that can happen to a luchadora, and that is losing her mask. That much is true. That has been presented, you know, very much over several years that I've watched wrestling, and the hair and the mask have always been kind of regarded as, you know, it's almost a sin to lose your mask. You know, the mask is what makes you. To have that thing taken away is the worst insult that you can have as a luchador or in this case a luchadora. But I'm watching this and she's wearing essentially the same mask that we saw her in when she was last on WoW. So I am not really sure what they're trying to relate. That part of it didn't make sense to me. Everything else about this was fine, but to stand there and she lost her mask while she's standing there with a mask on, and not even a different one. It's like the same mask. And even if it were a different mask, it looks identical. So this is the part of the story that didn't make any sense. I know that there's probably 1,000 people that watch WoW right now that's going to look it up like, oh, this is great and it's perfect. But I do ask for certain things to have some level of continuity, because if it's not something that relates to WoW, I'm not sure why you're bringing it up. That's the first thing. Like, she lost her mask in Mexico, so now everybody in WoW must pay. I don't see the relevance there. It's like nobody in WoW caused you to lose it. If anything, what she ended with in this promo is what should have been the driving point. She went back to Mexico to relearn and get better and, come back as a sharper knife or whatever, however she wants to phrase it. And her objective now, the goal is clear. She is going to be the first Mexican-born women's champion in the, women's wrestling champion or champion of WoW, or however she phrased it. That's, all of that's fine. I just, the mask part, I was like, what are you talking about? You got a mask on right now. Because normally you lose the mask, you're done. You don't wear it anymore. So what are we talking about here? How bad would it be? I mean, you lost it and you have another one. Any luchador could do that. But that defeats the purpose of the stipulation. You're supposed to lose it and no longer wear it. So I don't get this. Looks good. Ended on a good note. It's just that little point in between that I don't get. The other side of this segment featured Princess Aussie, who is talking about what she's in WoW for. Now, Aussie is another story, because she is somebody who had a angle that just went nowhere. She was kidnapped by the dark side a season or so ago in an angle that never ended. It just went away. Now, they talk about some of it in this. They talk about the sticks that she got as a gift from her the mother or grandmother wanted to do. At this point, I honestly don't care. But she talks this is what I was looking for. Subject matter that she's talking about aside, she, much like the previous promo, this was a good one. This is another good one, and she presents well in front of the camera. And she presents well in doing a promo in front of the camera. Everything was good here, and with the exception of the mask statement, it all made sense to me. Promos like that, I mean, when you have them back to back like that, it makes it difficult to see who's going to win. And that was one of the pluses that I had here. I was like, you had two people kind of talk this thing up. Now, I also wrote before the match started, I said, it makes it difficult to see who will win. And I wrote good. Explanation point. Good. But on the side of that, I wrote Tormenta needs this win more than Aussie does. Why does Tormenta need this win more than Aussie does? She has not won in WoW at all. That's why. So to go and, have this whole story about how you're taking this sabbatical and all this good stuff, only to come back and essentially lose, yes, she lost, is very disappointing. Very, very, very disappointing. I also don't know what in the hell are they doing with Sophia Lopez. I like Sophia Lopez. I do. But it's been weeks of this now, and we don't know where this is going. She comes out every time she comes to ringside, and she is smiling, and she is happy, and she's shaking hands, and she's shaking hands with the kids. She's baby facing this thing up, and then when the match starts, she's a heel, grabbing legs, giving her briefcase and stuff like that. Smile, but she smiles coming out. She smiles during the intro. She's as, and the kids about it, they don't know. It's not being made clear. If you can't make it clear for a 10-year-old, then you're doing something wrong. They need to determine what is it that they're trying to do with Sophia Lopez. This is very unclear. Be clear about what you're doing. Either she's going to be a babyface manager or she is not. She doesn't need to do both of them. I mean, when she does the whole introduction, she makes people cheer for Tormenta. They should not be cheering for her. She's the heel. But this has been going on with them for a while. Ever since they started the show back up, this has been going on with and it hasn't been any sign of hinting towards insincerity or that this is going somewhere or that they haven't suggested that she's doing this to try to earn favor with the fans, even though she doesn't mean it. None of those things have ever been made clear. It's just, I come out here and I smile and I look, genuine and happy and all that stuff. But then when the match starts, I go into trying to be a heel. I don't get that. Nor do I get them putting this camera on this dude who is super hamming it up in the middle of this in the middle of these introductions. That was just, come on. I guess everybody's got it. It's at the beginning of the show. We all get our 15 minutes of fame, and I guess that was his. But yeah, it is some cat out there who is super duper hamming it up. Lip syncing, I love you, and there's, I don't know. Anyhow, so the match, you already know who's going to win this thing. I already gave you that, so I'm just going to kind of go through the breakdown. One of the things that they talked about here was basically like those gloves. They talked about Princess Aussie and the gift of the sticks and how they were burned and destroyed. But then all of a sudden she realized after a while that the power was inside her and, she never needed them. It was rinse and repeat. The story with her sticks is the exact same story with the gloves. Is rinse and repeat. It is another reason why, sometimes I really do question who this show is written for. Is it written for kids or is it written for adults? Because I see a bunch of kids out there and they clearly must tape this where it is not like, hey, you can't be bringing your kid in here. They're trying to make a family-friendly product, obviously. But I don't know if this show should be written for kids when it airs, generally speaking, at 11 o'clock at night in most markets or later. The earliest may be 10. So I don't know. I do not know. I wish somebody in the WoW would open their mouth and say, this is our demographic, this is what we're shooting for, or explain some of these things that are inexplicable. The most part of this match is fine. There's fine action between the two. There seems to be a reasonable chemistry between them. I still stand by that Tormenta needed this far more than Aussie did. Not just for Tormenta's sake, but for Sophia Lopez's sake. Sophia Lopez has been made out to be, I won't say a liar, but she's been made out not to know what she's talking about with her talent. She has had 3, Well, okay. She's had more than that because some of them have come in and gone out. They don't even acknowledge Wrecking Ball as part of her group anymore. She's just gone. But between Los Banditas and Tormenta, that's 3 people, right? And the promises have been made for all 3. They're going to be the next Wild Tag Team Champions. She's going to be the next Wild Champion. The second that she said that they were going to be the next Wild Tag Team Champions in that vignette about Banditas, they have not won a match since. They were undefeated leading into that. And it felt like that interview or that promo was setting them up for big things, but nope. They immediately lost, and they've continued to lose ever since that point. Tormenta is no different. She got the grand return, the big setup by Sophia Lopez. They gave her the video. She gave her a super introduction, and all for naught. She just went out there and lost again. Now, how did she lose in this particular case? Well, at a point in the match, Lopez is trying to cheat for Tormenta. Again, we have our pseudo babyface manager who's a pseudo heel here, and she left her briefcase on the apron for Tormenta to use after Tormenta attempted a pinfall. She had her in torture rack position and fell backwards, dropping Aussie on her stomach. Aussie was able to kick out of that, and Lopez leaves the briefcase, her steel Halliburton on the apron, and she goes around to address Tormenta. She tells her, hey, look, basically yelling, hey, my briefcase, go get it. So apparently the referee is deaf, and he couldn't hear that. And she gets up on the apron to distract the ref. Tormenta gets the briefcase and then gets kicked in the face for her trouble. The briefcase is, of course, in front of her face, so not only she takes the kick with the briefcase popping her in the head. She drops that leaves her down. Aussie is now set up for her finish, which is the big frog splash. She goes up to the top, nails her 1, 2, 3, and Lopez has another loser in her stable. So that march to the championship is greatly detoured here. I mean, that road to victory took a swift detour to defeat. Now we go into another preview of the next segment for your main event. And before I do that, I will repeat. Aussie winning is fine. The segment that she had before this was fine. But she needed that win a lot less than Tormenta does. Tormenta has no stock in this promotion. If they turn around and they decide to stick her in the main event all of a sudden, just out the clear blue, I severely question why you would do that. I was like, it would be insane. I don't even know how you could justify it. But that's where it is. I mean, we've got a team of people under Sophia Lopez who have all lost and lost repeatedly in spectacular fashion over and over and over again. So seeing either one of them, either the team or the singular person with a championship belt at any given time in there sounds very far-fetched. But they've done ridiculous things before, so who knows? After the preview segment, there's another preview for what is going to be coming next week. They have a segment of Vicky Lynn McCoy in action against... well, I might as well just go ahead and say it. She's going to be taking on, which one is it? It's one of the new, might as well call them Beach Patrol girls because you know it's going to happen at some point. Sandy Shore. She'll be taking on Sandy Shore in the main event. And what a main event that will be. But I understand, according to the press release, Sandy Shore and Crystal Waters, who they label her as a newcomer, even though she had wrestled for the championship, allegedly, in their terrible episode 25 that she was in and didn't do or say anything, just kind of was in the match and disappeared. Apparently, Crystal Waters and Sandy Shore are going to be a tag team, surprise, surprise, and the team is going to be called Spring Break 24/7. And since we're doing the preview of next week, might as well just go ahead and give you the preview now, wherever you're listening to this or whenever you're listening to this. It will be Reina Del Rey and Wrecking Ball. Wrecking Ball has come back from the middle of nowhere to tag up with her partner again, maybe until the next time she disappears against Chantel Lucella and Fox Fierce. I expect Del Rey and Wrecking Ball to go over. Crystal Waters, who they have listed as one half of the freshest tag team in the wild, Spring Break 24/7. And they're such a fresh tag team that we're going to debut them both in singles competition. So she will be taking on BK Rhythm. I expect BK Rhythm to lose like she always does. The newly formed team of Team Spirit Squad. So we got another new team with Randy Rara and Ariel Sky. Assumably, the coach will be at ringside. And they're going to be taking on Exile, or at least this version of Exile with Ice Cold and Genesis. I assume Team Spirit Squad should win. And in the main event, like I just said, Vicky Lynn McCoy will take on Sandy Shore. And that should be a squash match for Vicky Lynn McCoy to keep her strong. Those are things that should happen. We'll see if they do. All right. So the next thing that was in that segment is the recap of the angle of the Mother Truckers, and it shows their deal with Sophia Lopez. Now, where that deal will go, I have the foggiest idea, because it's not like it got addressed again tonight or during this particular episode. It was just something that was one and done, possibly, because you know how they are. It would not surprise me if that is not brought up until 6 weeks from now, or if at all. They may have just forgotten about it and just moved on. But this is the main event, and the recap of them having a feud with the Disciplinarian and GI Jane, just one match apiece, and then they had their truck stolen, which Dave McClain is now saying, oh, it was GI Jane that did it. I was like, oh, okay. We didn't see that, and I thought, that angle was just entirely ridiculous. Because GI Jane took their truck and drove it from Los Angeles to Tennessee for some reason. And then for some other reason, the Mother Truckers are the ones that got arrested for getting their own truck back. So, and we never found out what the charge was. Because I would imagine they should be able to prove that the truck belongs to them. But, assault maybe. And I guess they're not smart enough to try to press charges against Samantha Smart the way that apparently somebody pressed charges against them. And they had to stay in jail for weeks for stealing their own truck. All of that was stupid. Main event. The Mother Truckers versus the Disciplinarian and GI Jane. This is a revenge angle. Or a match of revenge. And it is very clear that this is a match of revenge, and I'm fine with that. I have said before that I like Jane. She's green. She is incredibly green. And it came across in this match how green she was, but I still like her. Honestly, she's probably somebody who does not need to be on TV either. Just because of reasons like that. She needs more practice and or seasoning. She's another one. It would be great if they had some agreement, or they encouraged her, hey, go work some of these matches so you can get used to it or what have you. But that didn't happen, and it's probably not going to happen. So Jane, the Disciplinarian, and Samantha Smart all come out the ringside first. Smart is out giving lip to the crowd. Nobody there seems scared of him, so I really don't know if I would suggest that they continue doing that. I want them to be not necessarily intimidating, but I do want them to kind of come off as the heels that they should be. The Truckers rush the ring when they are introduced, and they jumpstart the match. Which basically leads, now Holly Swag has to wrestle as the underdog in here, and the mom, formerly Amazing Maria, now Big Rig Betty, has to work as the muscle. I am, pretty sure, given that she was essentially retired from injury not all that long ago, that this is largely so that she can get the opportunity to A, work a national promotion in her career, and B, and probably more importantly, get the chance to work with her daughter. That is her legitimate daughter. I know some people might question that, but no, that Holly Swag or Holly Hood, depending on where you're watching her, is her child. So, one thing GI Jane does well is she bumps great. She does some nice bumps in there. I mean, even for good old Holly Swag, she bounced around for it and everything, and did it in a believable way. It's not like Swag just body slammed her and stuff like that, but she took her down, leverage maneuvers and things like that. Side note, remember that schoolyard brawl that took place a couple of weeks ago with the Disciplinarian and Samantha Smart? Why did she not use that gigantic paddle that she carries to the ring all the time? I mean, if ever there was a time to use it, why didn't she use it then? I mean, that's a little side thing. I mean, because that looked like it hurt. That looks like a weapon. But no, we couldn't do that. We got to use dodgeballs and papers and pencils and tennis rackets and who knows. And they didn't even really use a tennis racket. Not for anything other than smacking the ping pong balls around at least. So, like I said, if there's anything that shows up in this match, and I don't think you have to be a expert wrestling enthusiast to notice, is that Jane at points was a little green here. There's a point that Samantha Smart did get herself involved. She got her hands on on Holly Swag so she could help turn the tide for GI Jane. Jane did the big boot to the chest of Swag, which I thought they have established as her finish. At least the last, when she came back in that singles match a week or so ago, that was what was used. But she pops Holly Swag with it, and it didn't finish the match. Now, granted, she did not go for the pin either. But, I think Jane in particular at this stage of her career should have that move as protected as she can to get some value out of it. Samantha Smart, although not a wrestler, had her working boots on. She was choking out Holly Swag with the ruler. She's distracting trying to distract Swag. She popped her throat across the ropes. She was doing heel manager stuff. I mean, she was in full heel mode. And that's one thing I can say that Samantha Smart has that Sophia Lopez, and that, I'm sorry to be comparative, but that's the one thing that Smart has that Lopez does not. Smart is a heel from the moment she comes out to the moment she leaves. There is no debating it. There is no confusion with it. The kids do not applaud her or smile at her or reach out to shake her hand because she is the recognized bad guy here. Honestly, I think Lopez could borrow something from that. She needs to be a heel from start to finish. It doesn't seem like she's going to do that, but she should be a heel from start to finish. This is a typical Mother Truckers match. If you've seen one, then you pretty much seen the formula. I'm not going to say if you've seen one, you've seen them all, because that's unfair to the Truckers. They do work well. But the formula is, generally speaking, because of Swag's size, the heat is on her. And she has to generally endure the pain. She has to take the beating in the match and somehow get the hot tag, and then, they try to turn around from that point out. And she took some punishment here. Holly Swag took some punishment. She took punishment from being slammed around by Jane. She took punishment from the Disciplinarian. She took punishment from Samantha Smart. And it was all good. Now, here's a point in the match where the Mother Truckers had to pretty much halt themselves to try to keep the match going, because GI Jane did what I can only describe as a rookie mistake. So there's a point in the match where she picks Holly Swag up and she walks her head first into a neutral corner. And she delivers a good, spiked her head right on the top turnbuckle. This is fine. She's yelling at somebody out at ringside, but what she does is that she walks her to the next turnbuckle, which is in her corner. Now, did she recover from it fast? Yes, she did. But it was a big mistake, because now it forced both Holly Swag and Big Rig Betty to look like they had a force field in between them and somehow could not tag. It just was like, okay, this invisible wall that's between you. Any other time, a smack on the shoulder, a slap on the hand, anything like that will do. But both of them like, what's going on? They both had their hands up, but neither one of them could make the tag. Like I said, I am sure that was not supposed to happen. She gets over in the corner. They feign wanting to tag, but they're trying to slow this thing up so that Swag can get pulled away. Jane recovers quickly, and she elbows Big Rig Betty, and then yanks her and walks her into the middle of the ring and slams her head down to the mat. So she, recovers fast, but like I said, it's the moments like that where the experience level begins to show. Swag is doing everything that she can to hold on. Like I said, the formula for the Mother Truckers match is pretty standard. Swag gets loose. She essentially boxes the ears of Jane so she can break a bear hug that she's in, and then she hits her with her variation of a code breaker, which necessitates, I was about to triple the word, necessitates a tag from Jane. At the same time, Swag gets over and she makes the tag to Betty. Now Betty's doing the cleanup, and here is where the Disciplinarian gets the bump around for Betty. She takes a couple clotheslines, takes the elbow, gets the rear waist lock, gets spin around, and then catches a clothesline, a short arm clothesline. Amazing Maria, Big Rig Betty. This isn't me. That's her former persona. Big Rig Betty is, in charge here. GI Jane stops the pin. Now, here is a little bit of inconsistency in that Swag comes in when GI Jane breaks the pin to, I guess, run interference on GI Jane. Somehow or another, she developed some upper body strength and locked her into this full Nelson that GI Jane just couldn't get out of. And then that gave them both the chance to hit their own individual finish. While she's in the full Nelson, on the other side, Big Rig Betty hits a stunner. I don't know what they call her version of it. And Swag does like a spin out quick sit-out clothesline. She releases I'm trying to describe it as best I can. She releases the full Nelson, holds her by the wrist, spins her around, comes back with a short arm clothesline that she jumps up for and kind of sits out when she lands. That apparently knocks GI Jane out, and the Disciplinarian's out too with the stunner, and we got a double count, even though half of both teams were in the ring and they were illegal. But the count goes down anyway, so the Mother Truckers have won this thing. And the Disciplinarian and GI Jane go back to their losing ways. Now, at the end of the match, Smart tries to attack them at the end. And, this is fine because, it's always fun to see the manager get theirs, especially when the manager does a bunch of stuff. So that's why I'm glad that Samantha Smart has really thrown herself into being a manager. So she gives them effort, but she gets beat at the end, or beat up in the end. They get on the microphone. They cut a promo. They do the whole character pun thing, honk honk, let me hear a honk honk and all that stuff. I hope this finishes up. This pretty much finishes up this match. And by the way that they're talking, it seems like it would finish it up. You've got Holly Swat. She gets on the microphone after Big Rig Betty finishes talking, and she said, "We're done with them. We don't want to see them anymore. We're finished with that." And they're talking to McLean, who is the matchmaker at ringside. So this is it. I mean, I guess this finishes, even though this thing got dragged out for an unnecessary amount of weeks because they had to tell some kind of story in it. But if you remove the story, the matches are fine. If you get rid of the idea that they had to go through this, my truck is stolen and we got to go to Tennessee. Now we got to drive back to LA and now we got to get a match. If you eliminate the ridiculousness of that story in between this, the 3 matches that they had are fine. I really would have liked to have seen where they're going, if they're going anywhere with Sophia Lopez. I thought maybe she might come out and take a look. Maybe she might come out and say, hey, you owe me. You need to lay down and let them win. And then transfer the heat over to her, anything, just to remind us that this happened in something other than the angle recap. But that didn't happen. I'm not sure if it's gonna happen. I mean, I won't be surprised if they pop up with this thing. Who knows, 3-4 weeks down the line, but I also won't be surprised if they never acknowledge it again. And that's sad. It's sad that that is a regular occurrence enough to wow that it would not surprise or shock me in the least. So we have another episode up, another episode down, and this is probably a solid C for me. Not bad, not great, but not bad. 3 of the 4 matches here had nothing behind them. They were just matches to fill out the show, which is what they're supposed to do. So that's not a complaint, but the 3 to 4 matches here were just cold matches. Now, again, nothing wrong with that. The matches are fine. I enjoyed Krush and Gigi Gianni. That was the match that I enjoyed more. I thought the Siren Holiday versus the Tonga Twins not matches. I thought their match did not have the oomph at the end because of that cut. It just felt like it just jumped towards the end. Aussie and Tormenta, fine. The preview for that could have helped make or break that, and it made it for Princess Aussie, but Aussie did not need that win. She just didn't. She's got enough. If you watch this long enough, she's got enough equity in there that she can survive a loss. Tormenta, however, she's damaged goods. She left with no wins. She came back to a nice introduction and lost again. At this point, it's time to move on from that. She's no main eventer. Let's just be done with that. She's a jobber in that company. She has no equity. She has no stock in that promotion whatsoever. Unless they do something suddenly out of the blue that's going to star her winning. And then we got to the Mother Truckers and the Disciplinarian versus GI Jane with Samantha Smart. Like I said, this match is fine. It's a pretty typical Mother Truckers match. That doesn't make it bad, but you know what you're getting when you watch a Mother Truckers match. Basically when you see them on the screen. I mean, it's almost like they have to work that way. And I agree. Unless they have somebody like Ice Cold, who's basically about the same height and size as Holly Swag. Outside of that, Holly has to be the one to take the beating. She has to be the one to bounce around. She has to be the one that they get the advantage on. And I'm fine with that. And I'm honestly fine with the Mother Truckers winning just to get past the feud. I just would have liked to have seen where are we going with the Sophia Lopez deal, which also didn't make a lot of sense to me that they would hire what we know to be a heel manager as if there are no other lawyers in the world. Now, in the WoW universe, there are no other lawyers. There's only Sophia Lopez. So I guess good or bad, babyface or heel, if you're in legal trouble, you better call Sophia. Matter of fact, they should go ahead and cut that commercial. It's amazing to me how WoW exists in this universe. I'll use the words that Kevin Nash, the terms that he called it. Back in the day with the WWE. This is long before a lot of you guys. But back in the day with the WWE or WWF at the time, where the occupation of the wrestler was more important than the wrestling. Where you had the race car driver, or you had the garbage man, or you had the magician, or you had the hockey player. You had any number of occupations that was there that was more important than them actually being a wrestler, because they had to come out there and this stuff, and they had to use the wrestling puns. If you were Duke the Dumpster Drosy, you came out with a garbage can smacking the lid saying, I'm going to clean up the Federation or something ridiculous like that. And you knew full well then, the moment that you saw him, that he was never going to win a championship. He was never going to be anything more than just the mid-card guy. Just because. Anybody that went anywhere past that point had to either drop the gimmick or they, change their look altogether. So that's the show. I guess the point of that was, I was thinking about that as I was looking at the Mother Truckers. Like, are they actually supposed to still be truck drivers? Like, one of them is supposed to be a truck driver, the other one's supposed to be a tow truck driver. Is this what they're supposed to be doing when they're off, when they're not with WoW? I mean, it was interesting enough how they joined the company, but with just on the word of Jesse Jones, like, I want to, these are my friends from Kentucky. And then all of a sudden it was just a WoW. But, again, that goes back to that statement. Who is this for? Is this for kids? Because if it's for kids, then no, that's fine. If it's for adults, it probably needs more explanation. If it's for critical thinking adults, I should say, because there's some adults out there that do not care. They'll kiss WoW's butt up and down and right up the middle if WoW asks them to. Everything that WoW does is great. Everything that WoW does is fine, and they don't question a second of it. They have some good matches here, but sometimes the continuity and angles that they present can leave a little something to be desired. Just a little bit. But if I am going to make a suggestion on this show for the match for you to watch, I will say two, in my opinion. A, Gigi Gianni versus Kandi Krush. For the brief amount of time that they did it, I thought the match was entertaining. And removing the video package aside, because the video package, in my view, ruins it. In a bubble, the match is fine. But the video package leading into this on TV with them talking up Tormenta and this whole background and all that stuff, to have her do that and then go and lose is a little disappointing. Now, the saving grace of that angle is it just wasn't Tormenta alone. It was the Tormenta / Princess Aussie video package. So it wasn't a case of what they used to do where they would do this big old video package and then that person to go right out and lose. They did both of them. So one had to win, one had to lose. It was so in that regard, it's fine. Like I said, it makes it very difficult to tell who will win. And that's what I like. I don't want to walk in there all the time knowing who's going to walk out the winner. I want to be surprised. I want to enjoy it. I want to feel on the edge of my seat with some of that. But it does not change the fact that Tormenta needed that win more than Princess Aussie did, just in terms of stock and how she would be perceived by the viewing audience. So that would be the show, folks. That is the entirety of WoW episode 40, Welcomings and Whoopings. So now we're just waiting for 41. We could do it all over again and see how much of that show that I previewed is going to be good. And will they explain why Spring Break 24/7 is, even though a tag team, are debuting singularly? Are they going to explain, why Vicky Lynn McCoy is even in this match? Shouldn't she be defending, the group from all comers or whoever else? Matter of fact, who is the number one contender now? I mean, I haven't seen Leia McCoy ever since she got hit with apparently this incredibly powerful touchdown tornado powerbomb that Vicky Lynn does. And I want to mention another thing here, because every once in a while when I come across some of the other names on the independent circuit, I like to share that. Because if there's one thing that I can say that is very clear, the women who are really polished and really good on this show, you can almost bet came from the independent somewhere. You can almost bet that they were not the product of WoW and WoW alone. They worked someplace else with other independents, with other wrestlers that sharpened them up. So by the time they got to here, they were ready. They were ready and they were ready to go. I bring that up to say, and I forget her name. I think it's Evelyn Lynn, I think. I might be wrong, but Vicky Lynn works under a different name out in the, I don't want to say out in the public. Out in the Indies. She works under a different name out in the Indies. And Kelsey Lynn. That's it, Kelsey Lynn. And there is a bull rope match that she's in. That bull rope match probably would take up half of the show that she's on right now. But it goes back to what I'm saying. You got somebody there who is good, and you know she's good, and you know why she's good. Because of this. Because her experience lends beyond WoW. And I can tell you now that bull rope match that she had is never anything that you're going to get on WoW television. Not because it was so violent or, they went through a whole bunch of things like that, but she did bleed. She had a face full of blood by the time that match was over with. And even though WoW has not defined that they are specifically for kids or adults, I am very sure that the last thing that they want to do is have somebody on their television with a face full of blood, even if it is one of their top names. But I say that to say if you get the opportunity, you should probably go seek that match out. It is a women's bull rope match with Kelsey Lynn versus Micah Madrid. I might be pronouncing her last name wrong, but you get the idea. So yeah, man, that was the episode. You know, I would encourage you to check out the Kandi Krush and Gigi Gianni match. If you're looking for a suggestion outside of that, you've gotten my suggestion here. If you still want to have kind of the wild narrative, it's under a different name, but it's still the same person. Kelsey Lynn versus Micah Madrid, Madrid. And this is a women's bull rope match. And fair warning, it is a hard cam match, meaning there's only one camera. And it is not far away. I mean, it's enough where you can see all the action, but you're not going to have a extreme close-up of the match. And I just got to say, and I wish that she had the opportunity to do this in WoW. That Kelsey Lynn tosses a mean powerbomb. I mean, it looked good. She is, and maybe it's because of how the girl took it, and that's probably very true. But she throws a mean powerbomb. And if I were in WoW and I was doing an angle like they tried to pull off with Leia Makoa, where the touchdown tornado was so vicious that it, knocked her out of WoW for, she's been eliminated as Lana Star claimed. That's the move I would have had her do. That would have been the instruction right there. I need you to go in that ring. I need you to win with the tornado touchdown. But when that thing is over with, I want you to powerbomb her until somebody comes out there to stop you. Enough to where you would understand why that stretcher is coming. But yeah, that is my suggestion for the week. It is presented by TCW Florida. I do not get anything from that. I just like suggesting some extra matches that you guys can check out, that you can watch, that you can get out and enjoy. So that one, and it's unique. It is unique. A bull rope match, a women's bull rope match, and they did not hold anything back. It is, for all intents and purposes, a pretty violent match when you're talking about the fact that this woman has a face full of blood by the time it's over with. So go and check that out. Women's bull rope match, Kelsey Lynn versus Micah Madrid. And I probably have pronounced the name 2 or 3 different ways, but just work with me here. Work with me. I'm just, putting that suggestion out there. And I will try to provide other ones as the weeks go on. That's it, folks. That was a full episode. It was a fun episode, average episode, but still fun. I gave you my 2. I won't recap them again, but I would keep my eyes open for next week because it sounds like it is going to be fairly interesting that they have a tag team that's being introduced in singular matches. Sometimes I wonder. Sometimes I just really do. I wonder where these things are going. And with that, this is Mr. Green saying that this is Mr. Green saying so long, folks, and we will see you on the next go-round. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.